The story of Hannah is one of deep sorrow, faith, and joy. It tells of a woman who faced immense challenges but held on to hope, trusting in God's plan even when all seemed lost. Her story begins in ancient Israel, during a time when barrenness was seen as a curse and having children was a woman's greatest honor. Hannah was married to a man named Elkanah, who loved her dearly. However, their marriage had a painful complication. Hannah could not bear children. Elkanah had another wife, Peninnah, who had given him several children. Peninnah, aware of Hannah's infertility, would taunt and provoke her relentlessly, exploiting her vulnerability. Though Elkanah tried to console Hannah, offering her extra portions of food and expressing his love, Hannah's heart was heavy with unfulfilled desires. The sting of Peninnah's cruelty and the shame of her barrenness left her feeling broken. Every year, the family traveled to the temple at Shiloh to offer sacrifices to the Lord. During one of these pilgrimages, Hannah's sadness became too much to bear. Overwhelmed by her sorrow, she left the festive meal and went to the temple to pray. In her anguish, she wept bitterly before God, pouring out her heart in a raw, desperate plea. She made a solemn vow, "Lord Almighty, if you will only look on your servant's misery and remember me, and not forget your servant but give her a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life." As Hannah prayed silently, her lips moved, but no sound came out. This caught the attention of Eli, the priest. Mistaking her deep emotion for drunkenness, Eli scolded her, telling her to stop drinking. But Hannah, still grieving, explained her situation. "Not so, my lord," she replied. "I am a woman deeply troubled. I have not been drinking wine or beer. I was pouring out my soul to the Lord." Moved by her honesty and depth of her prayer, Eli blessed her, telling her to go in peace and that God would grant her request. Hannah's heart, though still waiting for an answer, found peace. Her faith in God had been reignited by the priest's blessing, and she returned to her family with hope. Shortly after, in a miraculous turn of events, God remembered Hannah. She conceived and gave birth to a son. True to her vow, she named him Samuel, which means God has heard, because the Lord had heard her cry. But the story doesn't end with Samuel's birth. Hannah had made a promise to God, and she intended to keep it, no matter how much it cost her. When Samuel was still very young, Hannah took him to the temple in Shiloh. She reminded Eli of her earlier prayer, saying, "I prayed for this child, and the Lord has granted me what I asked of him. So now I give him to the Lord. For his whole life, he will be given over to the Lord." In a moment of incredible faith and sacrifice, Hannah gave her only son back to God, leaving him in the care of Eli to be raised in the temple. This was not a decision made lightly. Samuel was the son for whom she had longed, the answer to her prayers. Yet, Hannah honored her promise with grace and joy, knowing that Samuel belonged to God. After leaving Samuel at the temple, Hannah's heart overflowed with gratitude and praise. She lifted her voice in prayer again, but this time, it was a song of thanksgiving. Her prayer is a powerful declaration of God's faithfulness and sovereignty.